Hello Booktube, hello friends, welcome to Lizzie Faye Loves Books. I'm Elizabeth, and in this video I'd like to share with you what I read for the Fall into Reading Challenge. Now once again I have waited until late in the day so I don't have the benefit of natural light, but I need to get this done now because I have a bunch of books that I want to show you in this video that need to go back to the library. So let's just do this anyway. Now the Fall into Reading Challenge, if you're not familiar with it, this was the second year for it. It goes from September through to the end of November. It's hosted by Tia and All the Books, and Angie from Literary Labors, and Rainey from Rainey Day Reads. And if there's any other co-hosts, I apologize. Those are the three that I know about, and I will link their channels down below. You should definitely go and subscribe to all of them. And this is such a fun challenge. Now, I think now that I have some new editing software, I might be able to put the challenge board up here. There's two different challenge boards. One of them is a smaller board. I think I can put it right here. And it has, fewer prompts, but each prompt is a different genre. And then the bigger board also has, it has the same prompts and then some extra added fun things that have to do with fall, like an orange cover or leaves on the cover, stuff like that. So, of course, being the overachiever that I am, I had to go for the bigger board. So I will hopefully show you that here. And I just want to go through the prompts and share with you what I read. Now, I've talked about all of these books in my monthly wrap-ups, so I'll try to remember to tell you what month I read each book so that if you want to go back and see what I thought about it, then you could go to that month's wrap up and there you would have it. So the first prompt going from top to bottom, or right to left, top to bottom, is to read a YA book. Well, I read a few, not too many, but the one I'm going to count is Thunderhead by Neal Shusterman. This is book 2 in the Arc of the Scythe. I also read The Toll. I listened to them on audio. I had read The Scythe, I don't know, a couple years ago. Really enjoyed it. Finally got to finishing the trilogy, and I thought it was great. If you haven't ever read it, I would recommend just try the first one. It's so much more than what you think it's going to be. Very thought-provoking, and I really enjoyed it. But I'm going to try not to tell you about all of them because I've talked about them in previous videos. Anyway, I read that in October. And the second one is to read a book that has orange on the cover. Well, you don't get much more orange than that. This is Miramar Bay by Davis Bunn. It's the first book in the Miramar Bay series. And then the next prompt was to read a mystery. Well, I read several. I'll show you a couple of them. I am currently reading the Irish Village Mystery Series by Carleen O'Connor, and I read or listened to 2 of these this month. And then I'm also reading the Kebab Kitchen Mysteries by Tina Cashian, and I read, I've been reading one of these a month. I think I'm reading this series with the Killing Time with Cozy's group, and there's 5 of them, so we're reading the December book right now, and it's a Christmas book, and I was a little bit behind, so I finished 2 of them in 1 month, but anyway, September, October, November, so we started in August, but I didn't finish book 2 until October. I finished book 2 and 3 both in October, yeah. Anyway, this is book 3, so book 2 and 3 are not quite as good as 1 and 4, and I'm in the middle of 5 right now. Anyway, those are just a couple of the mysteries that I read. The next one is fantasy. I finished another trilogy by Neal Shusterman. Both of these trilogies were part of my 12 trilogies I want to finish in 2021. Listen to them on audio. This is book 2 in the Accelerati trilogy by Neal Shusterman. It's Edison's Alley. I also listened to Hawking's Hallway, and this is just a fun series. It is way out there in left field, very bizarre, quirky, and fun, and very unique, but I enjoyed it. And the next one is to read, let's see, that was fantasy. The next one is to read a book by a beloved author. So that prompt is one of the things that really propelled me to get this book done finally this month. This is The Mitford Bedside Companion by Jan Karon. And Jan Karon is the author of my favorite book series of all time. This is a companion book to the series, which is right here, and so this is perfect for that prompt. The next prompt is to read a book by an author of color, and I chose Clean Getaway by Nick Stone. This is one of the Sunshine State books. This book disappointed me a little bit. I just read this in November, so if you watch my November TBR, I talk a little bit more about that. And the Mitford Bedside Companion I just finished in November as well. Edison's Alley I read in October. And Miramar Bay I read in October. Let's see. I actually listened to 4 books from that series in October, and then the last book in November. So I finished that series in 2 months. Okay, so that's all of the first line. The second line is to read a graphic novel, and I just finished this on the last day of the month, really the December 1st in the morning, but I'm still counting it. This is book 2 in the graphic novel adaptation of the Kane Chronicles, called Throne of Fire by Rick Riordan, adapted by Orpheus Collar. So that is for graphic novel. I don't read a lot of graphic novels, and that is a trilogy that I wanted to finish. I've read the whole Kane Chronicles trilogy, but I wanted to read the graphic novel trilogy, so I think in December I'm going to go ahead and read the 3rd one and check that one off my list as well. Then Supernatural. So I've got a couple here. Not incredibly supernatural, but both have kind of an underlying theme. I thought I was going to count Monica, Hanging by a Thread by Monica Ferris. This is part of the Needlecraft Mystery series, and it's set at Halloween, so there's a lot of supernatural talk, but I think, if I recall, that all of that was sort of ironed out so that it wasn't actually supernatural, but there was enough supernatural talk that I could count it if I needed to. But this last book in the Miramar Bay series, which I just read this month and listened to it, The Cottage on Lighthouse Lane by Davis Bunn, this actually did have a supernatural element. The main female character had a gift of being able to receive messages, and so I didn't catch how it all was exactly, but it was kind of mysterious, and it definitely had a supernatural element. Then the next prompt is to read historical fiction. So I don't have a whole lot, and I was going to count a Jeanette Oak book, but I'll save that for another prompt. I'm going to go ahead and count this. It's just a mystery. The Golden One by Elizabeth Peters. It's book 14 in the Amelia Peabody series. I had to read this for book club, and it's set, what is it set, in the 1940s, or is it earlier? I don't know. The whole series takes place, I think it starts in the 1800s, and then, oh, no, actually, this one is set around World War I. So, like, the 19 teens, don't know exactly the year, but, yeah. Then the next prompt is to read a nonfiction book. So I'm going to count one that I drew out of my TBR jar. I read this in September or October. It might have taken me a couple of months to read it because I just read it in little bits. Yeah, so this is The Maker's Diet by Jordan S. Rubin. It's very scientific, very sciencey, not super easy to read, but it was interesting, and I learned some things, so yeah. The next one is to read a book that takes place in the fall. So these were rereads. I pull these off my shelf. This is where they go, right here. This is a whole box set by Jeanette Oak, Seasons of the Heart, and each book has a season in the title. So I think it's book 2 that is The Winds of Autumn. So I counted that book, but I had to go ahead and read the first one, Once Upon a Summer, because it had been so many years since I'd read them. And I think I read these in print the first time, and it was back in the late 80s, early 90s. And I listened to them on Hoopla. So after I listened to those two, I thought, well, I may as well just go ahead and listen to all of them. I listened to one a day the first 4 days of September, I think. And so book 3 is Winter is Not Forever and Spring's Gentle Promise. These follow the life of a young man named Joshua. Starts out when he's maybe 14, and it covers about maybe a 10-year period of his life, as you can see, all the way through his wedding. And they're really sweet, delightful. I very much enjoyed them. And if you've never read any Jeanette Oak, she writes, she's Canadian, and her stories are all set like in the 18, well, I don't know if they all are. This and Love Comes Softly and Canadian West are set, I think, around the 1800s, and kind of not really pioneer stories, but kind of. Just very good. Very, very, very good. Feel good books is how I would definitely classify them. All right, then the next one, the last one in that line is read a book that's published before 2021. Well, pretty much everything I read is published before 2021. But I think the oldest thing I read, this was also a reread, The Bronze Bow by Elizabeth George Spear. This is a Newbery winner. I had already done my video about the Newbery winners of the 60s, but I just got in the mood to listen to this again. I found it on cassette tape from one of our libraries in our county, one of the smaller ones that still keeps a few cassette tapes on in their catalog. And this is one that I just felt like revisiting, and it was very good. I have to say, though, I was more enamored with it the first time I read it than the second time around, but still very good. It's set in biblical times when Jesus was on earth. Then the third line, it starts out with science fiction. So I didn't read much science fiction, and this really is more of a dystopian, but I'm going to count it. The Shade of the Moon by Susan Beth Pfeffer. It is the fourth book in a series about how the moon has been hit by an asteroid, and so now it has kind of wreaked havoc on the planet, and I'm going to count that. Then the next one is a standalone, and so I'm going to count The Secret Keeper by Kate Morton. This took me a couple months to read. It's pretty chunky. Even though I listened to it on audio, it still took me a while. And I think I started it in October, finished it in November. And I didn't love it. It did redeem itself in the end. It did have a good twist, but it dragged. I think dragged. Anyway, it went slow. Then for a classic, again, not your run-of-the-mill classic, but kind of a classic character, even though he was a real person, is a Newbery winner from the 40s. I'm going to count Daniel Boone by James Darty. I just didn't have time to pick up any other, quote, classic, like Jane Austen or anything like that. So I'm going to count this one because that's really all I had time to read. I needed to read this anyway for my Newbery project, so I think I can count it. The next two I'm going to just tell you about, and I've got a book from the series, but I don't have the actual books. I neglected to order them again from the library. The next one is to read a book published in 2021. And I read the most recent book in the Cat in the Stacks mysteries by Miranda James. And this is the first one, Murder Past Due. So you, of course, want to start with this one if you haven't picked up the series. But I did read the newest one, which just came out this year. I believe it's called Cat Me If You Can, or no, I don't know. I'll try to put a picture of it. Hey, yeah, I can do that. Then the next one is also one from the same series because I actually listened to 3 books from that series. So the next prompt is to read a book with diverse characters. So this has a lot of different types of diversity. For one thing, it has a male protagonist, which is unusual for a cozy mystery. And there is also LGBT characters. There's also people of different ethnic groups, at least a couple of different ones, I think. So anyway, it can count, and I'm trying to think of the other titles that I'll put another one of the titles that I actually read up here, and I enjoyed them. It's a fun series, and I would recommend it. Then the last one in that line is to read a contemporary. So another series I've been reading for my Get Serious About Series Challenge is the Beach House series by Mary Alice Monroe, and in September or October, I listened to On Ocean Boulevard. This is book 6 in the series. And it was pretty good. The best thing about these books is they're about turtles, and you learn a lot about turtles. There is some romance, but I don't always like those storylines. I don't know. There's good parts and parts that I don't enjoy out of all the books. Then the last line, the first one we start with is thriller or horror. This is not super thrillery or horror-like, but it's about zombies. So this is the closest I'm going to come to that prompt, and I'm going to count it. Dead City by James Ponti. And then the next one is to, I'll have to read my glasses on. Oh yeah, read a book by a new to me author. So I did a buddy read with Becca from Hicks Books. I will leave her channel down below. I did this buddy read with her in September. It is The Wicked City by Beatrice Williams. Neither of us really loved it, but I had never read anything by her. I am going to go ahead and read the next one. In fact, the next a prompt that it's coming up here in a minute is sequel, and I had thought I would go ahead and read the sequel, but I didn't get it done, so I read lots of sequels. I'll count something else for that. Anyway, but the next prompt on the list is to read a middle grade book. I read lots of middle grade books. Just most recently in November, I listened to 4 different Sunshine State books. So I'm going to count this one, The Miscalculations of Lightning Girl. This is about a girl who is a mathematic savant because she got struck by lightning, and I enjoyed that. So then the next prompt is to read a sequel. So I think I'm just going to go ahead and count one of these Irish Village Mysteries. This is Murder in an Irish Churchyard by Carleen O'Connor. This is book 3. I read 2 and 3 this past month, I guess, in November, and enjoyed them. The next to last one is to read a romance. I didn't read much romance unless, I could count the Jeanette Oak books. There is a bit of a romance in that, but there's enough romance in this one that I'm going to count this. I listened to this on audio in November. This is book 2 in the Valentine trilogy by Adriana Trigiani. It's called Brava Valentine. It's about a family of shoemakers and all the drama. So, all the family drama. And the last one is to read a book with leaves on the cover. So, when I was getting ready to start this project, and I scrolled through all my Goodreads TBR, and I discovered this book by Davis Bunn, which is what propelled me to go ahead and read the whole series, because I knew that this first book had orange on the cover, and then the 4th book, look at that, look at the leaves. I really wanted to find a book with fall leaves, not just leaves, but fall leaves. You didn't have to do fall leaves, but that's what I wanted to do. And when I saw that this was the cover of the 4th book, I figured, why not just go ahead, do 1, 2, 3, and 4, and that way, you know, I have 2 of them to count for this challenge. So that's why I went ahead and picked up book 5 in November, because why not? Why not finish the series? And then it turned out to have a supernatural element. So I got a 3 out of 5 deal with that series, and did an author binge to boot. So that is everything that I read for the Fall Into Reading Challenge. If you have not ever participated in the challenge, if they do it next year, I hope you'll join in. You don't have to be an overachiever. You don't have to do the big board. They have the small one. Or maybe you could even just kind of do a bingo, or however you want to do it. You know, there's nobody that's standing over you telling you must read all the books on the, on the list. But I think it's fun, and it is a fun way to propel yourself to get some more books read. None of these were books that were not books I would have read anyway. I mean, I reread a couple that I might not would have read right now, and I probably picked up a few that I might not have gotten to right away if it hadn't been for the prompts. And that's what the prompts are for, to prompt you to read. So it's great. Anyway, that's all for this video. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you're having a great day. Read a good book, and God bless you.